In this video today, we're going to walk you through the recommended gradebook settings if you're choosing a weighted grade scheme for your final grade. So we're going to start out, this is my course here, I'm going to click on grades. If it prompts you with a setup wizard, you can ignore it and go to settings. And then I'm going to start out on this farthest right tab here of calculation options, and we're going to work our way back to the left. So I'm going to click calculation options. Here I have my grading system and I have the three options that are available. Since this is our weighted example, we're going to switch that to weighted, and what that means is that all my items and categories are going to make up 100% of my final grade here. I also have points and formula options. Under final grade released, it's going to default to adjusted final grade. We recommend that you change this to calculated final grade. What that's going to do is it's going to allow the grade to automatically calculate within the grade book and students be able to see that adjusted grade throughout the course. If you have a new course that's not already in session, you can check this box to automatically release final grades. If you're doing it in your current course and you haven't done that and you've already entered grades, make sure to watch our video on how to release final grades. Under grade calculations, I want to choose this drop ungraded items to 0. What that does is it doesn't treat everything as a 0 starting off. If you have this option here and say you have 5 exams that are all worth 20% and treat ungraded items as 0, and a student makes 100 on that first exam, their grade's going to show up as a 20 overall, because all the other 4 exams are 0. This drop ungraded items would allow them to see that based on the grade so far, they have 100 in the class because they aced their first exam. And then this auto update option just allows you to go ahead and keep those grades updated, that calculated final grade that we chose up here updated every time you enter grades. So I'm going to click save. It's going to prompt me, yes, I want to save my changes and I want to make changes. Now I'm going to go to this middle tab here, course display options. I'm going to be able to see the managing view display options is how many decimal places you see. It defaults to 2. You can choose anywhere between 0 and 5 decimal places depending on how many you want to see. Just know that if you're expecting it to round automatically, sometimes that it only looks at that first decimal place, so something that I can keep in mind if you go through and adjust those automatically. Under the student view display options, this is where you can choose what the students see. So if I have an assignment that's worth 10 points and they get 8 out of 10, if I have that points grade checked, it's going to show up that they got 8 out of 10. The weighted grade here is how much points they got towards their final grade. So if it's in their assignments category and they have 5 assignments and they got 8 out of 10, then they got 1.6 for that whole category. The grade scheme symbol is for percentage, and what that does is it'll also show them that 8 out of 10 is 80%, so they got 80% of that grade. And then the grade scheme color is defaults in our system. An A is blue, B is green, C is yellow, D is orange, and F is red. So these are your color options. So you can choose to display that or not. Then you can see how many decimals the students see. So it doesn't have to match what you see. If you want to see 2 but you don't want them to see any, you would just change this to a 0. And then you also have the option of how many characters are displayed in your view in the grade book here. So how many characters defaults to 50. We haven't found that there's been much need for any more than that. And then this final grade calculation, you can check it, and what that does is when the students preview their grades, it gives them a little calculator to see how their grade was calculated. This is pretty helpful, especially if you have items that are kind of check-off things that you kind of keep track of throughout the course but may not necessarily count towards their overall final grade. It lets them see exactly how their final grade was calculated. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save here, and now I'm going to go over to Personal Display Options, which are what you see. So you can go ahead and see their username, their org, defined ID number, or their email if you want to add those options. If not, it'll default to first and last name. Yours are going to default for this grade setting to points grade, so that 8 out of 10, the weighted grade. You have 5 things that are worth 20% of their grade, it's going to give you a fraction of how many points they are towards the final grade. If you want to see percentage, you can go ahead and click that too. It's how many characters you see in the grade book. I know this is how many times the number of columns before the details, user details repeat. So right now it defaults to 5. I'm going to see 5 grade items, and it's going to give me their first and last name again. You can adjust that to whatever you would like, as well as the number of rows before everything repeats. So right now it's at 10. I'm going to see 10 students before I see user ID, exam 1, final grade, repeat, and you can adjust that as well. You have this option here to repeat final grade at the start of the list, at the end of the list. So if you have a more drawn out grade book, you'll see it what their final grade is right next to their name starting out in the inner grades area, or you can uncheck that and just see it at the very end. You also have this option for adjusted grade. That's not checked because we chose that calculated final grade option earlier. And then one other important area here that might be of benefit to you is you have this start page and default grades area. And what that does is right now it's defaulted to manage grades. After you set up your grade book and you're not making any changes, you can go in and click this drop down and change it to enter grades. And what that's going to do is every time you click on this grades tab here at the top, it's going to take you to the grade book where you can actually enter the grades, and you don't have to go back and check that every time from there. When you're done, we'll save, and then we'll close. And then now I'm ready to go in and finish setting up my items and categories for my final grade.